Welcome everybody to Kraken Cast Season 3, Episode 10. Today we are joined by a friend of the channel, a friend in general, Avron Doodles. Avron's been on the podcast before. We're catching up after a year, as well as done amazing things like lore sports. Avron is a lore mistress, a title given to her by many people in the community for the Elder Scrolls, unofficial title there, as well as a very talented artist. And last we talked to Avron, they had just kind of dipped their toe into streaming outside of UESP on their own channel before it became more of a mainstay. So I'm excited to hear what's been going on the last years. I'm sure all of you are. So without further ado, here is the one and only Avron. Avron, thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everybody. That was like the best intro I think I've ever gotten anywhere. I like that one.
I've become more practiced in my podcast, not in just timing, but introing so everybody understands how great the people we're talking with are.
I feel really important now. I like that one. You should. I'm just going to record that and just have that as my alarm when I wake up in the morning, you know?
Yeah, if someone wants to, who's watching this live, wants to go ahead and clip that forever.
Hi, though. Thanks for having me back, Loctavian. That's like so awesome. I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I'm pumped.
At the start of the year, obviously had a lot of different personal issues come up, so we didn't get to do our lore sports again this year, so we're going to be doing that later in the year. For people who don't know what that is, me, Avron, and Lotus of Doom basically did a March Madness thing, but instead of sports teams, it was Daedric Princess. It's pretty fantastic. You can find that on the YouTube channel. I think it holds up really well.
It's so fun.
And as I mentioned before, Avron's been a guest, so we've talked a little bit, so people can go back. You can listen to that past episode if you're interested more. But last we talked, you had been asked by a number of people, hey, do you stream on your own personal channel? Because at the time you were streaming for one of the streamers for UESP, for the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. And you just kind of did it on a little bit of a whim, a little bit of a community kind of engagement. A lot of people had a chance to re-listen to that podcast during the subathon. I'm just curious, obviously you're on more of a kind of a set schedule nowadays. You've been streaming for the last year. I'm just curious how that journey's been from, oh, maybe I'll stream just Avron and not UESP here and there, to being this is a full on like hobby for you that you put a lot of effort into.
It's kind of crazy because I remember some of the podcasts and you were like, well, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. I never thought about it. I just do it because I do. And now I look at my channel and I look at like the growth and just how much fun I have. And it's like, I never even like remotely thought that we would be having this conversation to where I am now. And I'm like, wow, I'm like really not prepared for this. So it's been really good. So I used to be the streamer for UESP, one of the streamers, and then I kind of stepped down, and I dabbled a little bit with streaming on my own channel, even while I was with the UESP. But then life got in the way. I had to have surgery. My health kind of tanked a little bit, and I was like, well, this sucks. So in January of this year, I decided I'm gonna try it. Like, I'm just gonna try. I really like streaming. I mean, I loved it when I did it for UESP. So I said, well, let me do it on my own channel, and then I can just be myself. And the funny thing is, I think that sounds really easy, but when I started streaming for myself, I realized I wasn't used to just being Avron and not being Avron from UESP. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's like how I always viewed myself. So it's been really fun. The last couple of months have just been kind of like a journey of figuring out like who I am. I'm still figuring it out. But just recently, like people started to really acknowledge me as Avron Doodles without like from UESP. And I was like, wow, look, I'm like somebody real now. I'm like a real person. And I started in January with like 200 something followers, and right now I'm super close to 900 in a couple of months. So
that's amazing.
I'm gonna guess that I'm doing okay and that people kind of sort of like talking to me because I kind of sort of love talking to you. So it's awesome. And now I'm in this point of like, wow, I find myself kind of thinking like I could do this. Like I like this and I want to do more. And it's like I never thought I would ever say that. Like it's kind of funny. Like I feel like I really sold myself short a year ago.
I think
So that's where I am.
I think a lot of people sometimes sell themselves short, or they're not fully sure. Like a lot of people start streaming for different reasons. Like friends say they used to stream, or hey, I'm playing this game, I want to stream to a couple of my friends, see if I can make some new friends. Some people start off going right from day one, I want to create content with the intention of making this my job. Some people get to that point. Like there's so many places you start from and stay at. So it's really awesome to kind of hear where your kind of journey went throughout the last year in terms of like Avron of UESPs doing a stream that they're just Avron on to it's Avron Doodles. It's UESP is something that, you know, you put a lot of years and a lot of effort into it. People who've known you for a while know that was a part of you, but instead of being the primary thing, which, you know, we define ourselves by various things, you know, kind of the defining characteristic at first for you, like you said, was Avron from UESP. And now you're Avron Doodles, who in the past has done stuff with, you know, UESP. It's a part of you and a part of the you put out to the whole universe on stream versus like the predominant thing.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's really amazing. Another thing I want to kind of catch up on before we kind of get into High IO and a lot of these other things is the other thing was you're an artist. You've been working on your art, and you kind of were dabbling early on. You just started on the last podcast doing art streams in addition to like playing ESO and stuff like that. And I'm just curious, like obviously your art's progressed quite a bit. It gets posted on Twitter and stuff like that. Just your growth, not just as a streamer, but as an artist, and as you know, as you've become more Avron, not Avron from USP, how that aspect of your life, art, has kind of taken more of a front seat, or if not a front seat, a more predominant role in your content creation.
Yeah, definitely. I had always kind of dabbled with, I love art. It's a hobby that's really dear to me, and I didn't do it for many years. Like I kind of mentioned when we did this a year ago, just because I think people really sell creativity and creative pursuits very short in our world, like it's kind of like, why are you wasting your time with that? Art's one of them, unfortunately. And when I really kind of started getting into it, and it was really soothing during the pandemic years, because, we were all stuck in a room. And I was like, well, now I can draw. I don't have any excuse not to. And when I started streaming on my own channel, I had a really awesome member of my community, and they said to me, hey, just do an art stream. Like, just do it. And I was like, okay, you convinced me. I'll do an art stream. So I remember the very first time sitting there, with like the starting soon screen, I've already hit go live. I was like physically shaking. I was so nervous. And that was just so weird to me because it was like I was sharing something really personal. And also, like I know last time I was on, we totally talked about like imposter syndrome.
Yes, we did. It comes up a lot here because it's a thing.
It's a thing. I think everyone who's creative gets involved with it, right? Like you always feel like there's someone better. There's someone's always just kind of like finding a way to get into your mind space. Like I know one of the things that kept me from streaming by myself is people literally were like, no one's going to watch you when you leave UESP. And I was like, oh, dang, like that sucks. That would make me feel really sad. Now, of course, they were wrong.
Right.
But you that gets into your psyche and your heart. And it just kind of, when you do something because you genuinely love it, and that's like a thorn, Yeah,
words matter, and sometimes people don't pick their words well, or they are coming from a very negative space. So I'm glad that you were able to kind of work.
Yeah, and I pushed through. I remember my first art stream, I was so nervous, and I just sat down and did it. And then all of a sudden, everyone was like, holy crap, this is awesome. You can draw. And I think like that was the first time like a purely objective outsider kind of acknowledged that like, oh, this is a hobby, but this is actually something you can do. And then it became like, well, wow, do you do commissions? And I was like, I can do so now I have a coffee, a Ko-fi, and now I do commissions. And like that's really awesome. And of course, like a lot of them are Elder Scrolls based, which is totally fine with me because that's my jam. So yeah, it's like exciting. So, you know, kind of maybe once a week or like every other week, we do art streams now on my channel. And it ranges from just like, it's just a totally casual, throw on some music and chat with people and do it. And it's really cool. And I think it's just one more thing I'm doing in like the journey of trying to figure out who the hell Avron Doodles is. You know? But I love it. And it was just really sweet, I think, to see kind of the way that people reacted to it. Like I made like an art piece for Maddie Gone or something. We did a co-stream. Like I've just gotten a little more bold with like being like, hey, I can do this. So now I'm trying to get myself to be brave enough to actually like post things and my art on Twitter. So hopefully that's going to be coming soon. I think like setting up the coffee was like such a big deal to me. And I'm like, wow. Like, so I feel like that was really awesome. I'm glad I get to do it.
Yeah. And I love to hear about growth like that. Because honestly, at the end of the day, my take on content creation, the more I talk to other content creators, the more podcasts I do and conversations I have off, if you're growing as a content creator, you can get to a point where you're comfortable and you can maintain and just do the same old, but most people, you know, we do this there's better jobs we could have if it was for money, to be honest. But we do it because it's a creative outlet. So it's always about like, I feel like every month I'm discovering something new, trying something new, because it is about growth. And I think new viewers get to see this refined version of who you are when they first check out the stream, but people who have been there since the start, they get to, I mean, I think part of the reason that streaming is so enticing and growing as a medium is you don't just get to see the amazing content someone puts out, but you join a community. That's why people have communities, and you see them grow as a person creatively and try new things. And I think that's amazing. For our audio listeners, you'll want to check this out. You can find it on Avron's Twitter, but for the people watching this on YouTube or watching this live, this is a recent art piece Avron posted up. This was back in May. This is a member of the community. This is Tatanko X's character. Avron has 100,000 channel point redemption where they'll draw your character as a mini. So I found a little piece of art. I wanted to bring it up on stream. It's a really nice chibi Elder Scrolls thing that Avron did for Tatanko and does for her community in general.
Oh, that's so cute.
Channel point redemption. So again, for those of you who are listening to this in audio format, it's a really nice piece of art, and you can find a link to Avron's Twitter, Ko-fi, and stuff like that in the description if you want to look more at her art.
I would have sent you a nice one if I knew you were gonna like throw up one. That's awesome. That was the podcast is conversational. That was I remember seeing that during my subathon and went, oh, I know a quick piece of art I can grab that also showcases something you do on the channel in general, because it is art's become such a big part of your stream that it's a lot of points because it's a lot of work, but it's a redemption. It's like such a part of your channel. So I think that really not just showcases your art, but showcases how much it's become more and more a part of the Avron Doodles experience. Yeah, I think it's just a nice thing to do with the community too, because I mean, I do commissions, but obviously, you know, like channel points are a nice non-monetary thing that you can do. And I mean, one of the biggest things I was always into when I was with USB was community. That's why I did forums for them. I did social media. I did streaming, because that's just really like makes me happy. I'm a community builder at the end of the day. Like, and I think everyone that does streaming or content creation is in some way. And I think it's something I was really naive to when I started. And now I have just much more of an appreciation for it. Like, it's just like, wow. And I think it's really nice too. And maybe this is just kind of like a nice little like hats off to the ESO fam, but our community is so much nicer. I have friends that are content creators and they're like, well, how do you put up with the competition? And it's like, what competition? And they're like, well, you know, with all the other streamers in the category. And I'm like, yeah, man, like we don't compete with each other. We build each other up. Like,
yeah, that's not, so,
you know, like no one has ever been like, oh, dang, Avron, don't start streaming. You might become okay at it, or you might take viewers. Everyone's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, I'll go to your channel. I'll bring my team there. I'll bring my community. And then you bring your community. Like, and it's so much nicer. And people that do content creation in other categories, like they don't get it.
Yeah, certain.
And I almost feel bad for them.
It really depends on the category, but honestly, in a lot of categories, it's harder. It is, at the end of the day, content creation, I've come to realize, is very collaborative. Whether it's just having people you can DM who are peers in your field, or people who you can do co-streams with. You mentioned doing co-stream with Madigon. You're on the podcast now. There's part of finding your tribe in regards to other streamers that you can interact with, because there's a level of creativity that only comes out in a collaborative effort.
Right.
And while you can find that in other communities, there's certain communities out there, Sea of Thieves, Elder Scrolls Online, are a couple. And I'm not trying to be like, this is the list, but there is certain communities that the way they've grown, I think the nature of ESO being a game that started off rocky, and so it developed this culture with the majority of people that's all about bringing people in. Streamers who come from ESO, that's kind of our mentality already. So Reishi Sports, who was recently on the podcast, you can catch that episode on the YouTube channel, likes to always say community, not competition, and you feel it heavily. ESO is not the biggest category out there. It's not super saturated, but it's also not super small. But at the same time, Ninja614 might pop up in your stream the first day you stream, or in my case, I think I had 20 viewers. I'd been streaming for maybe 4 months in ESO. I'd been streaming before ESO, but in ESO. And then there's this Ninja614 who I think is one of the more identifiable names near the top of the category at any given time. Just popping into a random streamer's stream because they're legitimately watching it. Pain in the Axe is the same way.
Right.
Just to throw random names out there, because it is, there's outliers, but for the most part, it's not competition. I don't go, oh, Avron's gaining viewerships. How do I compete with Avron? I'm more like, hey, I know I'm live right now. But Avron's also live right now. If you want to go catch Avron, because you can also have multiple tabs up and stuff. And like,
oh yeah,
we share the category such that we share a community. I cannot go into an ESO stream, even from a brand new ESO streamer, and usually not find at least one person there who I recognize from my chat or from another ESO streamer's chat.
Yeah.
It's just such an interconnected category.
That's my favorite part. Honestly, it's like we have such a nice community, and I think I'm really lucky, because I think if I had discovered streaming or something in any other category, I don't think I would still be doing it. Because I those people, that were like, oh, nobody's gonna watch you, and they had more of that like predatory, competitive kind of intent behind saying that. Like maybe they would have been right, or maybe that would have been what I confronted more than just like, cool, awesome, hi Avron, nice to meet you. So I'm not saying we're the best, but like we might be the best.
It's definitely easier, because like I said, you can find as I've done more variety before ESO, and as I've branched more into it as secondary content, I've found people in those categories. But it is a little more hard, because it's hard to reach out to somebody, because you don't know if they're going to think that you're trying to leech. That's the term you hear a lot.
Yeah.
And things like that. Whereas with ESO, I'm so comfortable with the community, even when I was just starting out, that I had a lot easier time communicating directly with streamers in the category, and not fearing that they would consider me, because recognizable, at least from the community. Again, being genuinely part of the community helps, where they wouldn't just assume, oh, you're reaching out to me because you're smaller and you want to grow or whatever. You're, more genuine.
Yes, I agree.
But kind of continuing on that kind of concept of different games and the ESO community, I want to stave off ESO just a little bit longer, because I really want to dig into the high aisle with you as a fellow person who doesn't get a lot of the knowledge off of the PTS. So I feel like we're kind of on equal footing there to talk about it.
Yes.
A game you branched into recently, not super recently, but towards the start of the year, you've dipped your toes here and there, predominantly ESO, but if you look at the numbers, you spend about 16 hours in Genshin. We've already talked about art, spend a couple streams doing Oblivion. It looks like you did a stream with Lost Ark, like just kind of feeling the waters in other games. I'm just curious, because that's always scary, because obviously there's certain viewers who view you because they love Elder Scrolls Online and they love you as a content creator, but they only have so much time. And again, I think it's fine if somebody only watches you when you do a certain game, because it's their time. If they want to watch an ESO streamer that they like while they play ESO, and if you're not doing ESO, they're going to watch someone else who does ESO. I think it's their time. You got to respect their time. But obviously there's that means there is a scary thing where numbers, because it's hard not to be confronted with numbers, can drop. So I'm just curious how that was for you, dipping your toes here and there into other games on occasion.
I actually try to do 1 day a week of not ESO, which, yeah, it's totally scary because I'm totally an Elder Scrolls player. I mean, that's been my game for 20 years.
Right.
So it's most people, when they know me for something Elder Scrolls related. So even like playing Oblivion.
Yeah, Oblivion is tangentially a lot more related than, say, a Genshin Impact.
Exactly. Yeah. And, oh gosh. Yeah. Genshin, Lost Ark. I did a Phasmophobia stream with some friends. And I'm actually trying to think of a way to sneak in playing some Prey, because I love Prey. That was my favorite game.
Oh, those are good games.
Oh, such a good game. Yeah, honestly, in the beginning, well, I guess kind of doing art streams has helped me get a little braver with that, because obviously when you do something that's not what you mainly do, if you look at numbers, your numbers do dip. I don't get as much attention during art streams, but I don't mind it. I kind of like a more relaxed environment. And honestly, and this is kind of where I guess me growing, like I have to grapple with some of these things, but my real objective with streaming has still never been numbers. You know, right. I people are always like, oh, you're lying. And it's just like, I really am not. Like, I don't look at how many people are viewing my stream when I'm streaming. I don't even have that. I just hide it, you know, and I don't really worry about it too much, because predominantly for me, I'm there to chill and to talk with people in the community. So if you show up, you show up. And if you don't show up, that's cool. I don't take it personally. You know, and honestly, streaming has kind of just been a really fun way for me to carve time in my adult life to do the things I like video games.
Right.
So if like worst comes to worst and I get to play a game that I like for 2 hours, like even if only like 5 people come to talk, I don't care. I get to play a game, you know? So it's fun. It's definitely scary. Like I think everyone kind of has something that they're really well known for. And I don't think that's a bad thing when you're doing content, kind of like
not
art.
At all.
Yeah, like people are always like, oh, well, can you draw this, even though you always draw like elves and fantasy? And it's like, well, predominantly that's what I do, but I'll draw you not fantasy if that's what you want. Like, I don't have a problem with it, you know? So it doesn't bother me. I actually enjoy it. I like the challenge of it. And I guess I'm really lucky that no matter what I'm streaming, I always have some part of my like my chat never stops. And I like that. I like a chat that never stops, even if it's only with 7 people, than a chat that isn't moving with 100 viewers. So as long as people are talking to me and interacting with me, I don't really mind what I'm streaming. I just do it. Like I challenge myself. Like I said, once a week, I try to do something that even if it's not like too tangentially out there, I do try to do something different, you know. Just to say that I did, like, what, I don't have anything to lose from doing anything different, you know? So that's the way I look at it.
That's a really healthy mindset. And it's hard because obviously we're inundated with analytics and
grind.
And grind set, I always say the grind and the hustle, right? But again, I come from an analytical background, so I always look at things as an analyst. And that's the thing. I think it's a really healthy mindset that you already have, because again, if you're passionate about something, you don't grow and you can't add something new if you're too concerned about those things. Like if I had been concerned, I always bring up the podcast because we're live on the podcast. So it's the easiest one to go. Like if I looked at the numbers after my first few podcasts, I would have went, oh, it's like a quarter of my viewership. I need to go. But if you look at analytics on a quarterly, a 90 or 120 day cycle, then you can kind of look at it kind of I like it as like a feedback. I go, okay, this is this is working, this isn't working. And you don't know people's different situations on a given day with something.
Right.
So if you look at the numbers every single day, that's why I said your outlook is very healthy. And I know a lot of people encourage that, but it can be hard. But I'd encourage everybody to kind of do the same, because looking at a large section of numbers, you can go, okay, instead of going, oh, this stream is lower, my art streams don't get as much as my ESO streams or whatever the case may be, you can instead go, oh, I've been doing this and this art for, weekly for the last few months, and the it's ticking up, and you can look at other analytics, not just numbers, but like, oh, my active chatters are increasing. Oh, my follower number. Like, you look at all the different numbers over like 4 months and go, oh, okay. It's kind of like an affirmation. But yeah, I think a lot of people get fixated on the day-to-day numbers, and there really isn't much to learn from a day-to-day number because there's so many outside factors.
Yeah, and like if I had stopped when I did my first couple of streams when I was still with USB and I only had 200 followers, and I would have just stopped because I mean, if you look at like a channel like that has like what 4,000 or 5,000, which you helped bring in, and then you go do your own thing and you don't have nearly like that many numbers, it's really intimidating. But on the other hand, now that I've done it consistently, January, February, like we're in June, and I look and I say, wow, I gained almost 500 followers in almost 5 months. That's pretty awesome, So like having the hindsight, if I wanted to look and justify to myself, because I mean, it is really easy to get bogged down by numbers, even if I don't care about them as a content creator, because that's not why I don't stream for numbers.
It's a tool.
I do it for community.
And a lot of us do it for the same. Again, it can be a tool that's helpful. But everything on Twitch is gamified right down to, if you've never streamed on Twitch, flat out achievements for this, that are numerical. You get an email after stream that's like, I know. Here's report.
How you did. Here's the grind. How many subscribers did you go up? And I think I look at that and it's like, oh, you could just be happy. But honestly, I look at it more of like a challenge, like a healthy challenge. Like instead of looking at, well, how many followers I have, I find my mindset being more like, just a willingness to try new things. Like, wow, what if I did an art stream? Or like recently I was like, wow, what if I like tried to learn video editing and put a video on YouTube? And now I'm thinking about that. And like, I feel like and this goes to anything, I think, streaming, your life, chores, whatever, right? If you can look at it from like just a creative growth pursuit instead of like, oh my God, I don't have the same numbers Octavian has. What are they doing? Because I think people get caught up in like feeling like, well, someone's like stealing who you are, but it's like, just be yourself from the get-go.
It's the bigger trap. Again, numbers are a great tool if you are like me and you're an analyst. Then you have a background in analytics. It's amazing for me to go, okay, this and this has led to better retention. Like, it helps me to look back and go, I started doing this at the start of the quarter. This was my goal. How close did I get to my goal by doing these things? And actually look at the fine tuning of going, oh, this worked well. Oh, this didn't work well. And it's more than just analytics, it's feedback and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I think the bigger demon is the comparison, because it's very easy to go, okay, I was averaging, I'll just use my own numbers because I don't compare myself to other people. They're friends of mine, so it's easier to do it. So at one point, before I got partner, and your numbers are always a little higher, and they kind of drop after you get partner because people get really invested in that, getting closer to milestones thing. And I was averaging 125 people. And there's a couple other people who had started after me, and they were averaging around 60. And I was super happy that they were up to like 60. And then looking at going to their streams recently, because when you go to someone's stream, it shows their number, and they have, my numbers, because I've been adding a lot of variety, doing different things. My average is closer to like 60 itself now, and they're sitting there like 150 bigger than I've ever averaged. And I'm just happy for them. Yeah. But it's very easy to get caught in this comparison of bigger number, better person. Like, oh, I've fallen off and I'm somehow, my content's bad because their content is good, or my content is better. And numbers have nothing to do, like you're saying. Your content, which should be the thing you focus on, has nothing to do with your numbers, because there's so many outside factors to it. And I think, again, I'm just reiterating a lot of what you've said, because I think it's a very healthy mindset. I think it's very easy to somehow get lost in this comparison game, this numbers game, and all these things that ultimately don't matter. Because another person I'm going to mention who we did a podcast with, Tyranny, who, she averages really good numbers. She does amazing stuff for charity, does a bunch of stuff. She averaged 20 people for 5 years before she kind of really found her voice and her footing and started going on the upward trajectory, and was making amazing content for that entire 5 years. And then you look at somebody else who may have popped off within 3 months, but it makes no difference. And if you get too lost in the numbers, it's harder to like just enjoy the experience, which it sounds like you're doing, versus getting lost in the, oh, my numbers are up, my numbers are down.
Yeah, I think it's good. Like I agree with you too. Like it's a tool, and like some people are super good with numbers. I'm not. Math is never. That's why I'm an English teacher. Math has never been my strong point. Um, like if people are into numbers, I still think that's cool. It's just not my style. And it's funny as I grow a little bit. It's funny the conversations people have. Like I was mentioning the one friend who's like, well, bringing up the competition stuff, and they're always really focused on that. And I really I feel like I'm always just gonna, and I maybe having been at the forefront of some stuff for UESP, which is a much larger platform, has kind of helped me shape this mentality a little.
Right. You went through it. You went through it with UESP.
Yeah, and I've gone through the numbers grind and, almost like the job. Like there were times where UESP really did feel like my job, for better or worse, that comes with the job. And, I think at the end of the day, a lot of that just shaped my experience. Like I really just want to do it for enjoyment, like my personal enjoyment and then my community's enjoyment. And that's just something I really hold dear to myself. So, and that's just my style. Like, I'm not saying everyone has to do that, obviously, but I think that's just really who I am. Like, I really just try to be really genuine. I feel like authenticity is a weird word, but maybe authentic. This is just me, like 100% of the time. If you talk to any of my friends, they would be like, that's just who Avron is. She's just loud and obnoxious and happy all the time. So it's like, how much better can it get than just being able to be yourself and enjoy it? And like I said, I like the challenges more, in the way that like starting to get into streaming seriously has really just made me want to try new things. Cause I don't think I would have never thought about like video editing and YouTube and stuff like that ever, so that alone is just, I think, really exciting. Or even just the way it pushes me to do art.
Right.
I just think it's just a really cool journey. That's all.
It is an amazing journey, and like everybody has different things. Like you have people out there like a Dr. Disrespect who stream purely for entertainment in a character, and you have people who, like yourself, like it's about authenticity and community. And I think all of those. The cool thing about Twitch, like any other form of entertainment, is you can watch what you want. If you're community driven people, you attract the people that are like you. Like if people come by my stream or your stream or anyone's stream and they don't like it when they first are exposed to it, they'll probably take off, and that's fine, because the people who end up sticking around for whatever reason are the people that vibe. And like you said, then you end up growing a community, and what you grow is a more, like you said, more authenticity, more authentic community that's there for you. And I think it's again a healthy thing, because a lot of people will talk about things that they do to try to like appeal to people. And I feel like I would burn out very fast on content creation if I wasn't myself. If I was like, more power to somebody like Tony Acts Out, who can do these in character. I love Tony. I mean, what you see, honestly, what you see is what you get. There's a lot of Tony in Tony-is, for example, but at the same time, like, more power to somebody. But again, that's authentic. Tony is a professional actor.
Yeah, that's his vibe.
And so there's still an authenticity to him putting together stories. So it's really amazing creatively. And the reason I like a lot of what you're saying, and want to really kind of reiterate it, is it is a competitive field. You mentioned those people who said, how are you going to compete? How are you going to compete? It's a competitive space. TV, stage. I have a degree in theater. I was going to go into lighting and sound design for theatrical art. Theater. These are acting. These are all competitive spaces. But what a competitive space means that you need to be doing everything you can to retain the viewers who come to you. We have to wear a lot of hats. We have to, market and network and all these things. But at the end of the day, a competitive space to me is I set a goal. If I get to the goal easily, I should have set a harder goal. If I fall way short of the goal, I have to go what went wrong. If I get close to it, I feel successful, because I want my stream to be the best possible me and the best possible stream, the most entertaining stream that I can provide. So to me, it's a self-competition. I want people who come to the Loctavian channel for the podcast or whatever to be like, oh, this dancing's happening, this is happening, or that's happening. And if that's what they want, I've done my best, and I continually do my best to make it better and better and better, so that I can retain people. Not competitive as in a sports team where it's the the Loctavian Loctopuses versus the Reishi Spores on the gridiron this Sunday, fighting over viewers. I want viewers to come in and say, I had a great time at Reishi stream. I want them to come in and say, hey, do you know what Reishi's up to tonight? While he's streaming at the same time I'm streaming.
Exactly.
So I can just check in and go, what's up? Or, Reishi's doing V Rising, I'm doing V Rising. Why don't we jump on V? Like, I don't want it to be me versus Reishi. I want it to be, I'm working really hard, Reishi's working really hard, Avron's we're all working really hard because we are being self-driven, self-competitive, challenging ourselves. Like you mentioned a lot, challenging ourselves to make our streams what we want them to be, making our communities what we want them to be, not competing as in we got to fight over every last viewer. Because again, I've been a Twitch viewer since Twitch Plays Pokemon the original time. Is like my first introduction to Twitch. I've been on Twitch a long time. If you watch Twitch on PC, a lot of us I have tabs.
Oh yeah, same.
So like, it's not like I'm really even competing if I think, but yeah. I would do Kraken versus Spores in a very fun, lighthearted way, by the way. But I feel like few people will get into like the sports. I think it's, again, the grind set mindset of it all versus the just being happy for others.
And I think the way you described it too, like competition with yourself, is exactly kind of how I've realized it kind of is for me. Because when I think of like the conversation you and I had a year ago, I don't think I looked at it remotely like I look at it now. And that's the thing. I'm like, wow, like Avron now is way cooler than Avron in January. Like that's a +1. That's a positive kind of competition. Then I'm like, wow, what's Avron going to be like in December of this year? And it's really good.
Yeah, and then we can look back at your old clips and your old streams and you can see, like I do that all the time. I will go watch something from a year ago.
Oh, I love it.
I'll watch a clip and go, or watch one of my OG, like original YouTube videos and be like, I'll cringe just a little bit, but then I'll go, wow, I have grown. I think that's the coolest things that there is growth.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
And another thing that you talked about a lot that I want to talk about a little bit is something that comes with growth that I really enjoy seeing is I see people branching out more and more. And again, this is nothing against a streamer who just does one specific thing, because even people who only do one game branch out within that game. But
yeah, that's, for example, your thing.
You doing art in a different game once a week. Maddie Gone. Hello, for people who are listening to this audio, Maddie Gone just popped up in chat as I mentioned his name, like as if summoned. But something like Maddie Gone, who when I first started watching was just doing ESO, and Maddie's been mixing in a lot of Switch games and Lego Star Wars, and mixing in like these, like Payne's doing music, you're doing art. Like it's really cool for me as a viewer in the community to see people creatively challenging themselves and just branching out in very organic ways to show a different aspect of themselves that's always been there, but you can show that in a way. And I love to look back on people's streams and just see how much they've grown. I think if people can look at people more authentically, less as competition and more as, peers, because we all are peers in this thing. And I learn a lot. I watch people like Madigan and yourself and Reishi and brand new streamers, because I lurk all over. And sometimes I see something and I go, I wouldn't do it the exact same way, but I like that idea, and it sparks this whole creative thing in myself. And if you're looking at somebody's competition, you go, versus looking at them and go, wow, that's really cool. Maybe I could try something like that. Yeah,
it's like a learning mindset. Wow, I feel like we're back in school and I'm at the front of the room. But like it really is. It's like when I do the same thing, I lurk a lot more than I chat, and I always feel bad, but it's just the nature of sometimes you're doing other things and you can't be as engaged in the tippities on the keyboard. But I love just going into everybody's streams and just seeing the different ways that people engage with stuff. Like that's really cool. And sometimes you get ideas, or sometimes it makes you realize, hey, I like this. Oh, maybe I should try. Like that's kind of why I did the my art redemption for channel points was actually inspired a lot by Madigan has like a music redemption, because he's a musician. And I was like, well, I can't hold a beat, but I can like do a quick drawing for people. So why don't I do something like that? And then, really. And it kind of, and now everybody, it's funny in my chat, they're like, I'm so close to 100,000 channel points. Like they tease me with it. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. Like that's something I borrowed, or like I brought over something that I used to do on UESB, because I think you were Maddie Gun. One of you two started calling me the lore mistress, I think.
Oh, I do it all the time.
And
it's in the, for anybody who's watching live, it's in the chat bot.
But it's really cool because that's something I really love in the games. But we do lore book readings, and that's something I brought with me from UESB because that's something I would do for them to kind of help promote the wiki. But now it's just something we do. And like that was my friend Pylon's idea. That wasn't even mine. He's like, hey, like you like lore, why don't you like read a lore book? And I was like, that would be great, So it is cool. Yeah, like that's a great way to like get ideas from people.
I mean, I read lore because I saw you reading.
Yeah, see, everyone's gonna read lore soon. Watch
lore.
out, we're all gonna be lore masters and mistresses. I'm for it.
But I love storytelling, and I have live action role playing is one of my backgrounds, and
yes,
what I do a lot there is campfire, and at art competitions I do dramatic barding readings of stuff, and so I'm trying to mix in more bardic type stuff. So starting with reading lore was a way to kind of help my mindset, like slowly start adapting a form of storytelling, hopefully over this year to the channel.
Yes, I can't wait for that. I'm actually excited. I'm gonna slither on in for this.
But again, and that when you don't look at people as competition, there's just so much you can pick up and learn from each other. Like Simpsons did it, or everything was written by Shakespeare, or whatever is true. Content creation is not about doing the most original thing that no one else has done before. If you can find something like that, by all means do it. But it's about doing things that others do, but doing it in an authentic way, because nobody would think, we'll go back to music. Gracefully Lyris, Madigan, both musicians, both heavily incorporate music into their streams. You wouldn't look at them and compare them in terms of like who does music better, because they're both very different musicians, and it's them authentically putting themselves out there, with the instruments they play and the music that they do. And I could ramble about this. We could have an entire 2-hour podcast that is just about community and not competition, and the benefits of an entire mindset that makes it easier to create when you stop looking at people competitively. But I do want to make sure that we're continuing on. And again, I think it's really amazing. Obviously, you've been focusing since the start of the year a lot more on content creation. And I know you're not really a numbers person, but just to kind of talk about the numbers, like you were averaging before kind of a little bit of a break there because of various reasons you mentioned earlier, around 20, but just as you've been going, your numbers. So, and we have highs and lows and plateaus, so I'm not going to like read out the numbers, but what's really cool is you've been consistently doing art, consistently doing ESO, consistently doing your stream. And since you've been doing it, the numbers, they do go up. And yeah, there's times they plateau, there's times they dip down. But again, looking at the long thing, I think it's really amazing to see that ever since you've been like putting like more of yourself out there. Again, I bring it up because I think it's another correlating is the more you put yourself out there and not a photocopy of something out there, the more you start to get people who stick around, because people identify with the you. At the end of the day, the you of it. If you just wanted to watch somebody do a certain type of content, you would just go to the directory and you would find the person who is the best at it and watch them do the content. And there's content creators who do that, and that's awesome. But most people watch a content creator for the creator that they get to know. And I think the only reason I bring up the numbers is it's as you put yourself out there more authentically, good things end up following. When you don't focus on the numbers, they're a nice byproduct of it all.
Yeah, no, if you would have told me in January that I would be sitting like I think I'm like less than 20 away from 900 right now, I would have been like, you're crazy, So, and when I look at that, it's just like, wow, like obviously, somebody out there is resonating with just me being myself, and it's not, I think a lot of the criticism I used to get when even pulling in the numbers on UESP, like naysayers would be like, well, that's only because it's UESP. It's not you, it's the brand you're behind. And that's true. I mean, to a certain extent, it absolutely is. But, I'm just really glad I didn't listen to the people when I left that were like, no one's going to follow you. No one's going to watch you without, a big giant thing behind you. Like just you being you isn't enough, because obviously they they were wrong, and thank God for that, because I've been having more fun the last couple of months than I probably ever had before. So I like it. I'm really proud of myself. Pat on the back, Avron.
Pat on the back for Avron. The last thing I want to kind of talk about on this kind of chain of thinking, though, because we keep coming back to it, is there any advice that you can maybe give to somebody to ignore the naysayers? Because you're going to get them. I get them. When I originally branched into other content, I literally have DMs I've saved for myself to go back to and just feed off, not the negativity, but a positive push from it, literally accusing me of betraying the ESO stream team by
doing something
because not this last subathon, but last year when I did my subathon last year, I would say New World was brand new, and I wasn't going to play ESO 18 hours a day for 2 weeks straight, so I split my time. And even though ESO predominated my time, it does any given week. Yeah, I got like that. And you got it from UASP, or if you're going from USP, if you're trying new content, you get the people who are like, when are you going to play this again? Like there's just like most toxicity, it is a smaller percentage of people out there. And usually they're not even truly community members who have these negative opinions, but those are the ones that stick with us because we emotionally resonate with negativity. So it's easier to go, oh, there's so much negativity about this, because people who are just enjoying themselves, usually like they'll say great job here and there, but you don't get that as much because you're getting that by them just showing up. So I'm just curious if you have any advice or anything you did to help get yourself past the negativity that some toxic people will throw out there about it's only UESP or you won't succeed in this environment. And because even if you're not getting it from other people, a lot of people are getting that in their own brains.
No, definitely. And I think I'll be the first to admit, I think I even said this on stream this week, is that honestly, the things that I heard like that are still things that I'm working through, because there are lots of times where like I want to post a doodle, or I want to like post going live on Twitter or something, and something in the back of my head is like, no one's going to click on that. Like, just shut up. Don't post it, because I think about what those people said. And honestly, I don't know anyone that can completely ignore those naysayers, because there's a reason why naysayers get under your skin.
Because of our own self-doubts, it just affirms this negative piece of our mind.
Exactly. Yeah, like they say it on purpose because they know it's going to get in that self-doubt, like under that little crack between confidence and self-doubt that we all have. And I think two things kind of really helped me kind of push it back a little bit. One is that I made a very big policy like this year of just telling myself that I'm not engaging in the more toxic communities and the naysayer. Like, if you're a naysayer, that's cool. I'm just not going to engage with you. Like, I have left guilds. Obviously I stepped down from USP. I have left guilds. I have completely cut out those people from my life, which in retrospect doesn't seem like a big deal, but sometimes that's a huge, like, it's so hard to be like, I can't talk to you anymore because you're just bringing me down. Like, it's so easy to be with people, especially people that kind of have like an image behind them, like if someone's big and they're important, whether it's seemingly self-importance or real importance. I think there's a difference between those two things as well. Like, there's a reason why you kind of want to be with them, because you're like, wow, like I want to feel, everyone wants to feel important, like I think everyone wants to be told like, hey, good job. Hey, you're important. Hey, you matter. Right. And I think sometimes we seek those out in ways that we don't need to all the time, or in the right spaces, I guess is a better way to say that. And I just, I told myself, like, I'm just going to create those spaces for myself. Like, this year I started my own guild on PCNA and ESO, because awesome. I didn't want to be associated with larger guilds that were really toxic. And the funny thing is, when I did that and I said, hey, you know what? I'm not into manufactured trauma. Like, that's cool. Had a great time with you. I'm going to go do my own thing. You find that the people that like that follow you anyway. Right. And now I have a community, and like the biggest thing with our guild is like we do that for everyone. Like we don't like if that's your vibe, like you're not a part of it, because we have a very like, you know, we're like a naysayer free. Now that doesn't mean, you know, not like constructive criticism free, because you need that in your life, but you don't need naysayers. Like you don't need haters. There's a big difference between someone that wants to see you improve and someone that just wants to hold you down. So I think kind of just telling yourself that it's okay to step out of those circles is probably the number one best step to do. Like if you know, the longer you linger in those spaces and you hear those voices, like the more you're going to believe them, because that's all you hear. It's almost like an echo chamber. And then I think it's that. And honestly, I think it's just kind of recognizing in a way, recognizing your own importance and your own worth, which is really hard to do. But
that is another large topic we could have an entire podcast on.
Yeah. But honestly, like as soon as I just said like, that's it. I'm just going to be me. And I already knew that I'm not for everybody. Like I'm not for everybody. And I'm okay with that. And I think once I said like, hey, that's okay, because there's so many other people that are awesome in the community
who are going to be for them.
Exactly. And like, I don't look at that competitively. I look at that as like, hey, you know what? You're looking for this. Oh, hey, I can recommend like Pain in the Axe, or I could say go to Madigan. And I think that's a strength that we have, you know? So, but honestly, I think just stepping out of those spaces, get rid of the naysayers. You don't need them. Yeah,
it's great advice. And that's again, if you get away from the competition and that mindset, I agree wholeheartedly. Because again, I always say I'm not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I'm scatterbrained. I'm loud. I'm opinionated. I like to dance and I like to sing poorly, and a bunch of other things. But there's another thing. It's like, you know, I wouldn't call, most of my streams aren't mature. It's not like I'm popping on the mature setting. You know, but I do cuss here and there and things like that. So my stream might not be the most like family friendly all the time sort of stream. But like you said, if somebody's like, oh, you know, this isn't really family friendly, like this is kind of how I am here. We normally, you know, steer away from it, but sometimes we do talk about more serious subjects. Sometimes there is certain language. But if you want a family friendly streamer, there's somebody who's just right in the title. Madigan is your person, or somebody's like, hey, you do PvP. You very rarely don't really do PvP. And I'm like, oh, you want some sweaty PvP?
We got someone for you.
I got a couple people. I got Sakar, I got Pain, I got some people for, like, and that's, I think again, this, like you said, is strength, is being able to go, if someone sticks around long enough to be like, this is that, it's very easy for me to not feel bad going, hey, here's this person and they're going to be for you. But yeah, cutting out negativity though, I think is a hard thing to do. Obviously it gets under our skin, like you said, for a reason. And for me, the hardest thing was getting used to a point and getting to a point where you have people who I call letter of the law type, the lawful neutral, lawful evil type, who go, I didn't technically violate a rule. And then it took me a long time to just be like, if you're kind of killing the vibe, if you're kind of killing the flow, if you're kind of killing the community by being there, getting to a point where I could not just leave a community, but on occasion kick somebody out and explain to them, hey, this is why I'm doing it, but this level of negativity you bring just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Here. And that's another hard part about removing negativity.
Yeah, it's hard. And maybe in some ways, I think having been a forum admin way back when forums were
a background for that,
huge. You know, like you got to ban people, and you have to look at the betterment of the community, but also like the betterment of yourself, because you're also a member of that community. So you've got to make it safe for yourself and for everybody. So it's I think more people just have to be okay with saying no, but man, no is so hard to say.
Yeah. And so thank you for talking about all of these subjects. I think they're all very meaningful, and I want to go in 100 different directions. We've caught up. We've talked about a lot of new stuff, but I want to make sure we're utilizing the last of our time before we move on to the Q&A stuff to talk about something. The reason I'm doing this podcast early so that it can drop online the day of Tuesday. High Isle is almost here. Isle. Let's talk High Isle. What are you the most excited for? What are you the second most excited for?
Oh my God, I have to order them. Actually,
No,
it's easy this time.
Oh, it might be easy this time. I was gonna say no because I can't order things. Somebody once asked me to rank the Daedric princes, and it took up 2 hours of my stream.
I remember that. That was hilarious, by the way. There's only one thing I can rank with confidence, and that's my opinion on the alliances in ESO. We all know how that goes. So it's Dominion, Covenant, Pact, but that's unquestionable. But sorry, I had a cat aggro there. I'm most excited for Heil, definitely Tales of Tribute, which surprised me because I am always adventure, I'm always story, I'm lore, but gosh darn, man, Tales of Tribute is so well executed. And I actually went on PTS to try it. I never go on PTS, by the way, just so we're clear. Like, I don't know anything else about the chapter, nothing.
I won't spoil anything, but I go on PTS. I specifically go on PTS now that I'm on PC. I look at all of the furnishings that are going to come out. I put them all in a random space because I want to physically see every single one of the furnishings. I go to the outfit station. I look at the different dyes I can get and get excited for those. I'll jump on when they're previewing an event to see whatever the new style is going to be. So I look at fashion, I look at housing, and usually I don't even explore the zone or touch anything other than that little bit. This is the exception because as a content creator, I felt I either needed to go into the card game completely blind and learn with people on stream, or what I decided to go with is I need to learn the card game well enough that while I'm playing it, I'm not just explaining it like this is this and this is why. I need to go, oh, my opponent is using this strategy and this strategy works like that, so I'm going to counter. I wanted to be able to confidently, for people who are new to the card game, haven't played the card game, do it in a way that I felt would be more engaging. So I took a lot of time on, but mostly off stream to learn the ins and outs of it. So I could be a little bit of an authority on it, which I assume is the reason why somebody like a Nephis has spent so much time on PTS in the trials before their lives so they can be informed and create content.
And like, you know, that's because people like you do that. I don't have to because I'm more of a discovery player. I just want to discover it. But people were we talked about this last time I was on your podcast. Sometimes I'm really just fueled by spite. And a bunch of people were like, oh, Tales of Tribute, that's lame. And I was like, how bad can it be? So during a stream, actually, I was like, we're going to spend 30 minutes on PTS. We're just going to do the card game. I want to check it out. Well, 3 hours later, we were so engaged in this card game. I was so into Tales of Tribute. It was like, wow, we got to play one more game. We got to do one more. And I'm really surprised because historically I suck at card games, but I'm great at Tales of Tribute. So I'm ready. But I was like, wow. So I'm zone second this time. Tales of Tribute numero uno for Avron here.
I love deck builders. It's one of my favorite types of games. Dominion.
I'm not that good. Wait, hold on. I'm not that good, Locke. Let's
No, but I that's my favorite type of game. Like there's a shelf behind me that has a bunch of different niche board games on it. My favorite type, though, is like a Dominion, a Netrunner, a deck builder game where it's not a collectible card game, but it's like all the cards are there. It's a shared tool. So which they did, which it turns out, and I discovered this in the Khajiit's chat when Rich was there, /Lurk, the lead dev, also a huge fan of that type of game. I really appreciate that they went less magical because a lot of people were expecting effects and magic, and they went, they want the game to feel like a game I could be slapping these cards on a table, and it does feel like I could pull this out of a box and play it.
And that's why I like it. I think it's like my character could have this pack of cards in his back pocket and whip it out and play, and I'm like, that's really awesome.
and to me, I just like additional layers of content. If you don't like a certain sort of content, if you are somebody who likes to collect things, to get the additional stuff, you'll have to do the card game enough to get a couple dies. But there's plenty of things, like I've done plenty of things that are not my favorite in ESO to get the dice and then stepped out of them. But it's nothing like, it's not like to get the best in slot gear for this, you have to do the card game. So it's another layer. You can do the card game. You can do antiquities. You can do trials. It's another thing, especially for someone like me who ends up just doing what I call, because I watch her streams a lot, the Vindalia loop of walking around talking. Being able to slap cards down and do the same thing on stream, super appealing. Sometimes I want to be an ESO. I want to be hanging out with a guild. I want to be doing the game. But want to go grind another furnishing recipe. I don't want to grind an antiquity. I don't want to do a dungeon. I just want to exist in the card game. I'm super excited for, because it's a thing I can do, drop into a tavern and do, and just exist without.
Yeah.
That's not like a grind. The fact that it's going to have leaderboards and stuff is super exciting, because I'm not a score pusher, but I think I might be for this.
I'm just really, I think it's just really well designed, and like I said, I'm just so surprised that it's something I really just gravitated towards. And I don't like to do, when new content comes out, I don't jump into the main quest right away.
All right.
My personal play style is that when a zone comes out, I go do the zone quest. So I do like the towns, the delves, the public dungeons before I do a zone quest. So it kind of gives me like one more thing to kind of almost like procrastinate on, you know? Like, yeah. I'm like, well, I may not want to do a delve today, but I'll play Tales Tribute for a bit, and I'm really excited. I cannot wait.
And, you know, let's talk a little bit though, because we did right before this talk about getting rid of negativity. So I try to understand things from both points of view, from multiple points of view. And you talked about it earlier with other things. There's a difference between being critical and critiquing something you love, and being spiteful and hateful and toxic about it. And there's a lot of people who were critical, and those are the people whose viewpoints they got, not the people who are just going to be jerks about it. And I understand, like, there is obviously, as they make the servers that were over a decade old fresh, as they work on old coding, as they fix these things they need to fix, you know, adding another class, adding another skill line, as they're trying to balance things more and more by having like everything be like stamina and magic and all the balancing they're doing, adding another skill line or another class. But I can understand the point of view of maybe being a PvPer who feels like, I really haven't gotten anything new in PvP in years. So I'm frustrated to hear nothing about that, or being somebody who got their hopes up for a skill line or class. I can understand a level of frustration, especially again, coming from the PvP community, who, until the server started getting fixed, until there was kind of a little more of a roadmap recently, just felt ignored. And I get that. And so I'm saying this to erase the 80-90% of people that I feel love the game and are critical, versus the 10% that feel entitled and just hate something outright for the sake of hating it, which you see with sadly any release, be it World of Warcraft, Elder Scrolls Online, Final Fantasy. All of them have naysayers of systems. But yeah, it's kind of hard, because that's the thing you see. And I love that more people who get hands-on with Tales of Tribute are enjoying it and recognizing it for the additional layer of content that it's giving to the game, versus just outright like hating it because they didn't get the thing that they wanted or would have preferred.
Yeah. I think it's been nice too to see like I think in the beginning it was more just subjectively like, and it has really shifted. I think more people have, as they've tried it and seen the previews and seen like streamers or content creators kind of put out stuff on it. It has, I think, gotten like, it's broken the ice a little bit more. So, but totally valid. Like, I agree, and especially as someone that does all areas of the game. Because I do PvP. I PvP religiously, you know, twice a week. But yeah, like, and that's what I was saying too. Like, it's just, I understand. Like, I love Battlegrounds, but I was super critical about them for a long time.
Before they fixed it where you could do anything but deathmatch. And again, I appreciate them trying it, but yeah, it was the worst. And so again, it was a long preamble, because I didn't want anybody listening to this who is critical or critiquing it or concerned, because there's valid concerns. Like, is this going to be another thing that goes in the Crown store to get decks? No, it looks like it's going to be like Antiquities 1,000% in game. Like, I think all of that is valid, and don't want to take away from that. I'm just specifically, when I say screw the haters, talking about the people who were just outright toxic for the sake of being toxic. And I think no matter what was announced, they would have been.
Yeah, and there's always a part of the community like that too. But I think constructive criticism, like the constructive things, you know, I always have to remind myself that when someone feels really passionate about someone, or even like angry, you know, anger, the way I look at it is anger is a response to a feeling of injustice, right? So when you frame it like that, it's like, I can understand if you have, you know, an argument that's not just like bashing your face on the keyboard in rage. You know, like, I can understand some people coming from it because they feel that there's been an injustice because, like, hey, there hasn't been any new PvP content in. When's the last time we got a new Battlegrounds map? I think Murkmire.
I want to
wow,
say,
yeah, it's been forever.
I want to say Murkmire. I only recently got into PvP, so I don't know, but I think.
Yeah, because we got the Aelid Ruins Battleground map. That was the last edition. Like, and it's, you know, Cyrodiil's kind of been. Cyrodiil's exciting. I love Cyrodiil, but you know, we haven't gotten any new artifacts.
Right. I think the last thing they added was the big bad hammer.
Ball and Drung, which is fun.
Yeah.
But you know,
but
so like I understand that makes sense because I'm in the same camp that you couldn't even talk to me about Battlegrounds for like a year. I was so enraged.
But yeah, I'm really excited. I like additional layers to the game, and what I do like, again, I've talked about it a lot, is there's some really great videos out there. I'll post a link in the description for people who listen to this later. Watch it later in the description, but Josh Strife Hayes has a really great video about parasitic content, which is content. I'm not trying to bash on it, but World of Warcraft is really bad about having an expansion, introducing a new system. The system is time gated. You spend so many hours working on it. The new expansion comes out and we never use this old system again. And ESO has always been good about symbiotic content. So like they introduced companions, then they're still releasing new companions. They introduced antiquities, and not just
new antiquities still,
and all the old sons get antiquities. They introduced cards, and not just High Isle has cards. Yes, you have to have the DLC, you have to have the chapter to initially access antiquities or Tales of Tribute, but once you have it, it's added throughout the rest of the world. It gives you a reason to go back through the world, and I feel like they do a really good job of adding things in a symbiotic way that adds to the overall game, and not just the one chapter and then move on.
Yeah, like nothing is a one and done, and I think that's why I have a lot of patience with ZeniMax and the developers, because honestly, they've never let me down. I've been playing the game since beta. I mean, just the way that they just keep building and adding on, and you're right, like nothing's forgotten. Like everything that you loved, like there's things I've loved from day one before one Tamriel, the dark days of the game, and it's still there, it's fresh, but it's just the way it evolves. Like even just watching like something like the housing system, like I remember when housing was released.
Oh yeah, housing is
and now you look at it like, wow, we have pathing, we have house guests, we have like all these crazy attunable stations, like just the way that's evolved. It's just like, I mean, my houses get cooler and cooler as time goes on, so I'm happy about that. But it's I've never really been disappointed or let down, and some of that's just bias, because I do always tell people I'm so biased. I love the Elder Scrolls. I mean, Todd Howard could probably come and like run me over with his car, and I'd probably still like it. It's just that's the kind of crazy person I am. Thankfully, he's only shaking my hand, and he's not done anything like that. But so there's my own personal bias, but like I still have fun, and like to me it's like I still have fun, so I'm gonna cheer for it. Yeah,
we had CJ Greb on the podcast last, who's the art director.
I love him, by the way.
And I brought up housing and what he as an art director feels when he sees the community run with tools, and mentioned specifically thinking about that. It's become a thinking process, and we can see it in the last few years of housing and giving us more and more building blocks. So it's cool to also see them adapt systems, and it might take a while to get there, but they've had a supreme focus recently on a lot of quality of life stuff, building block stuff, and things like that.
Which has been great.
I think is, utterly amazing. And like I said, you can be critical of things and love 95% of it like I do. And you can still say things like, I wish they go back to the days when we had small and medium houses, because we haven't had a medium house since
we need more.
The last medium house we had was Morrowind and things like that. But that doesn't take away again from my utter cheerleading of the 95% of the game, because I think criticalness comes from a love of a thing.
Exactly.
Before we kind of wrap things up, kind of near the end here, there's a couple other things I want to talk about real quick with High Isle, and then do a couple rapid fires. So another thing about High Isle, having had CJ Greb on, talking about kind of like how beautiful the zones are, and he was a little remiss about his comment of saying going back to a beautiful zone, because Fargrave is beautiful in its own way and things like that. So I'll preface that with his own feedback from it, because he's like, but he was just meaning more of a traditional like Somerset, like
Yes,
traditional,
beautiful Somerset.
yeah, a traditional like aesthetic. And I'm just curious from the preview images and all the stuff you saw. So since like me, you haven't really gone through the zone, how you feel about being able to explore like the volcanic areas and these big sweeping fields of sunflowers and this very like mixture of like traditional like European Western architecture with fantasy architecture and things like that.
Well, I mean, all my screenshots are going to be me in a field of sunflowers. I'm just going to let everyone know. Like Monday, my whole screenshot folder is just going to be like, look at the sunflowers. No, I think it's awesome. I mean, I think every zone is really great, but High Isle, I think High Isle is exciting in the same way for me that Somerset was, because Somerset, it was like brand new. Like, wow, we've never been to Alinor.
Right.
Holy heck, I can't wait to see this.
There's two lore readings that I've read on stream, and that's two throughout all the games, and a location on a map, and they created everything we're getting from basically two pieces of Breton lore and
teensy weetsies
and a thing on a map that came out with Daggerfall.
Exactly. But like, first of all, and this, I keep telling this to my community because there's doubters. Listen, I've been saying this for Bretons are cool. Bretons are really cool. Like from a strictly lore perspective, Bretons are amazing. And I think the cool thing with High Isle and being able to explore that zone is that people are going to realize that. Like, I think it's really cool to kind of get, you know, this image of Bretons as kind of like, well, we've never really explored them in depth. They're just weird man, elf, boring European Bretons. Yeah. And it's not just that, it's going to be so much more.
Well, the piece of the lore I read is the one that talks about the history of them and how they were originally like underlings and bred, and then when the original Mer were gone, how they basically recast their own caste system. So they have this whole caste system, and I don't think any other, based on that one piece of lore that I've read well before I knew we were going to Breton, you know, going to High Isle and learning more about Bretons has always interested me, because none of the races outside of the Dunmer, which we explored in depth in Morrowind, not just in ESO but in Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, has such an elaborate caste system, house system, politics between houses, and we haven't had an expansion since Chapter 0, is what Avron also calls Orsinium.
That gets into the real OG.
That gets into a race we don't know much about, and that gets into political structure that we don't know much about, and we have saved the world from Daedric princes left and right, world-ending dragons, etc. And I am really happy because Orsinium is still my favorite piece of content to go through the story
too.
Because you see the impact. I mentioned this on your stream. You see the impact of Daedric and non-Daedric worship and the conflict of like Trinimac and Malakath in the people without having to like stop Malakath from doing some bit. And it's going to be exciting to explore everything from that vantage point, because if you look at something, it's always been part of the game. For every stopping Dagoth from becoming a god using the Heart of Lorcan, half the game is also picking the freaking noble house that you want to freaking be part of, and going through the because Morrowind's the last Elder Scrolls game where if you completed one guild line, you couldn't complete the other two guild lines. Like, it's for every stopping evil dragon from Alduin from destroying the world, there's also a civil war. So I'm excited because this is hand in hand with Elder Scrolls to me. So I'm excited to have that kind of exploration in a story again, because we haven't really had that since Orsinium.
I agree. And I always, like, everyone on my channel knows Orsinium, aka Chapter 0, is also my favorite story. And it's funny because it's not saying that the other stories weren't great.
No, they're very good.
Awesome. But I just feel like maybe the nature of it, like being a more like society, political based plot, the way that like the Hrothgar and Orsinium characters were created, like I was on the edge of my seat that entire chapter, quote, right? And I think just because of that, like it felt very real. And, you know, the nice thing is we're going back and exploring the politics of the Alliance War. Like the Alliance War has been going on this whole time. And like, you do your vanilla vestige quest, it's there, but once you start stepping out into the world, it's kind of like this really tiny little whisper, kind of like the guards in Skyrim. You're like, what was that noise? You know, and then you're like, oh, I guess it was the wind because you're busy fighting Daedric princes.
Yeah.
But like, it's going on.
Right.
It's there. So it's kind of fun to bring that back into the forefront a little and give that story some attention. I'm really curious. You and I will have to compare notes after getting through the main quest. I'm curious if this is gonna finally knock Hrothgar out of my tier list from like S tier. You know, I'm curious. We might have to look like, how does it hold up to the other one? Because I'm excited.
Yeah, and I think there's no better way to get lore about a race because the Orsimer, the orcs were like the Bretons. None of the mainline games or ESO really gave us a lot.
Right.
So exploring it from a political structured level teaches you more about a race. And there's a lot of the other things. I felt like we didn't have a lot of Khajiit in mainline games. And Elsewhere did have a world-ending threat, but Elsewhere
was beautiful.
Did a great job of mixing in the culture. I feel like they've learned a lot. So I'm very excited. For anybody who's naysaying it or says ESO's not true lore, well, they have to run things through big bad Todd. Like there's a million interviews basically saying, you know, they have to get permission on a lot of things. They have a literal lore master for a reason. So I'm sorry to say, ESO,
guys, it's been 8 years. Just accept it. It's lore.
It's canon.
Todd has
not one to hold his opinions back. If he's like, ESO is not canon, he would have said so. There's a reason it's set in the era it's set in. And so.
Listen, I talked to Todd Howard face to face at PAX East when Elsewhere was announced. It's canon. He told me. That's it. I'm the lore mistress. You don't have to go for any other sources. You heard it here first. No, I'm excited, and you know, maybe we'll finally get some Redguard content after this. That's another race. I would love to go to the southern coast of Hammerfell. Sign me up.
No, this is all speculation, but I would venture a guess the reason we're not going there.
Oh, I know what you're gonna say.
Is because again, it's about Bethesda working across all their studios and. The odds-on favorite for where Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be set is
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hammerfell. So that's why I kind of like, as much as I love the Orsimer so much after Orsinium, which I didn't care about orcs before that. Obviously, the whole other side of that is the Red Guards, and I want more of them.
Oh yeah.
But
we'll have to see.
I'm also really excited because. None of us know. There's not even anything to data mine yet, and I don't really look at data mines other than for what's coming up in crown crates. Anyways, but CJ Greb, when I asked, you know, what is your aesthetically favorite zone? He goes, well, I've been walking around it recently, and people won't really see it till, you know, late fall or the winter, but probably the new one we're working on. And I'm like, ooh, how dare you before High Elf even launches?
What a tease.
Mention the October, November DLC. Because now I'm like,
that's promising.
No, it's really promising. Don't get me wrong. It's promising. It's just, I'm like, I wanted to wait to have to think about it because now you just put it in the back of my mind. I'm like, well, where are we going then?
Well, we'll get a hint, I guess, somewhere in High Isle.
Yeah. I was going to say High Isle. We'll give us a
We'll get a hint.
All right, so let's go ahead and do a little rapid fire, and then we can get to Q&A. For anybody who's listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or watching this on YouTube, I compile all of the Q&As for the past month, and we put out a video of all the podcast guests as a special episode of Q&A. So that you can find that later in the month for the Q&A. But for everybody who's here live, we'll be doing the Q&A right after this. But a couple little palate cleansers, rapid fires I like to throw out there. First. Jakarn, Mary, bed, murder. Jakarn, Darian, Razumdar.
Wow, that's a tough one. Okay, what is it? It's Mary, bed, murder?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
You get one night stand with one of them. You have to marry one of them, and one of them has, for better or worse, one of them has to... You gotta push him off that cliff.
Okay, I think I got this. Mary Razumdar. Bed Darian. Murder Jakarn.
No!
I'm sorry, Jakarn lovers. Listen, but the only reason I said that is just because we spend so much time with Darian. Like, I'm just really attached to silly little Meridian boy, and I think Jakarn will get fresh take with this new content.
We'll have to much like Orsinium versus High Isle. We'll have to touch bases on Darien, Jakarn, because obviously Jakarn was in Dungeons and the prequel, so I feel like we're going to get a lot more Jakarn. But no, I
like Jakarn, but I don't like him as much as Darien.
I feel like everybody pick. I feel like Roz is the easy pick for.
Who wouldn't want like a partner their whole life is adventure and just like sweetness and jokes? Like, come on, he's adorable.
Yeah, already helped make his mom not hate him as much back in Elsewhere. So.
I know. Unpopular opinion. Sorry, guys.
All right. You have to be one or the other, werewolf or vampire.
Werewolf.
Okay, just easy. Okay, that one was easy.
I went with my gut on that one. I just started a werewolf for the first time in all my 8 years of playing. It's fun.
I'm always been a vampire lover, even outside of ESO, but I haven't actually played vampire since they revamped the whole thing. But I just love my Rivenspire and my vampire family.
Yeah, I do love Ravenwatch. They're so great.
This is all about gut reactions and rapid fire. So we got.
I went with my gut. I didn't want to think
werewolf
about it.
It is.
Werewolf it is.
Bork. We don't have to rapid fire some of these. In case you don't know, class is going to be Templar. Faction is going to be AD.
Oh yeah.
So we'll just
Everybody. Do you know? So you know our good friend Lotus of Doom.
Yes.
That's how he introduced me at PAX East to the rest of the ESO streamers. He said, "This is Avron. She's like the only Dominion streamer. Everyone else here is PAX Avron." And I was like, "Oh." However, there's a couple of us. There's
a small banana contingent out there.
We're a teensy tiny little. Not everyone can be the best. It's true. I'm just kidding. Yeah, Luna is Dominion. I think you're Dominion too, right?
No, I've been AD since the dawn of the game.
Me. I think Aries Summer's Dominion now too.
I was a Khajiit Standblade day one on and then when I moved to console, I was Khajiit Standblade, and now I'm an Altmiri like Heelblade, but
heck yeah,
or Altmir Heelblade, but so Dominion through. They all have their bad points, but
yeah, I mean everyone knows I'm a staunch Dominion person. It's just I don't know. It's just I just am. I can't justify it. It's just I love that stupid story. I love that story the best.
At least I mean they've started their xenophobic pathway of the whole, what they will be by the fourth era in Skyrim. But right now the Altbury people have a good queen. And
you gotta love it. We were literally talking about this in my chat yesterday. Like I have to love Irene because even though I know she's destined to fail, I still love her because she just clings to her hope. Like, she knows she's going to fail. She knows she's not going to get her little idealistic view of the Dominion. But, like, dang it. And, like, honestly, you could sit there and argue all the alliances are bad in their own way. So,
yeah.
They're awful. But I love Irene. Sorry, guys. And we have Razumdar. So, doesn't get better than that.
That is very true. Do you have a favorite piece of lore that comes to your mind?
Favorite piece of lore?
Like a piece of lore in the game that's your absolute like favorite, whether it's to read or tell or talk about.
I've never thought about that before, despite being the lore mistress. I'm realizing as I think about it now.
Oh, there's so much lore, so
there's so much lore. Honestly, I think some of my favorite, God, everyone's going to be like, dude, this lady is just straight up Altmer Dominion propaganda. But some of my favorite lore is the like hidden stuff in the notes and books in Somerset about Altmer society. Altmer messed up, and I kind of love them for it in the lore. So like the Altmer, not only do they have like a Sapie arc for everything, like they have a Sapie arc for like naming fish.
Yeah.
Which is like, you're like, what? Why do you need that? They have this really big, complicated pedigree thing that each suitable Altmer gets before they get married. I don't remember what it's called. It's like a I don't remember because it's a confusing alien name. But like, there's a letter that a mom is writing to her daughter about a potential suitor and referencing this thing. And I'm just like, that's a lot of pressure. Like, it's like, oh, your nose is blocked, this, that, your measurements, and you're just like, what? And it's like this whole thing because they're just weird. And I kind of love them for it. That's the only thing I can think of off the top of my head.
It's supposed to be off the top of your head. I got a couple other real quick rapid fires. Same question as earlier, the Mary bed kill.
Oh, no.
The tribunal.
Oh, okay. Man, you all are really going to hate me for this one. Mary, Alexia, bed Sothasil, murder Vivek. Bam.
That's fair.
I love Alexia. She's a power woman. You know, like I respect that. Yeah,
I would say Mary Sothasil, but he'd lose track of time and we never talk again. So
yeah, like here's the thing. I love Sothasil. Well, he's adorable, but like, is he gonna remember? He's not gonna remember your anniversary or anything else. He's gonna be consumed in his projects. You know what I mean?
But both times we get to talk to Deveafer and Sotha in Elder Scrolls are some of my favorite moments because I'm just so enamored with both those characters.
Yeah, they're good. And like Alexia is also a tragic character because you know what if you play Elder Scrolls 3.
Yeah, if you play the DLC, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Sotha still tells you in the DLC of ESO, like, oh yeah, but like, just, you know, it's kind of funny because you're looking at the tribunal at their peak right now.
Yeah.
So it's a little different. So just strictly from Second Era, although we all know how marrying Alexia goes, I'll probably be dead in a couple eras, but whatever, you know. We'll be good ride while it lasts.
All right. Good. All right. The last two. If you were Jumanji'd into the game and you had to settle down in a zone, what zone is it?
Oridon.
You're gonna go straight up Oridon?
I would go to Oridon, and I would really want to live in Matissan.
Nice.
Because I know this 100% because this is why I loved Matissan in the game. It's the history of Matissan on Oridon is that they do steel production for the Dominion. And I'm from Pittsburgh, which is a town with a lot of history of steel production. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, I get it. And boom, I knew that exactly. There you go. I love it. That was a good one.
Fantastic. Very quick, easy answer there.
That was a good one. I didn't have to think too hard about that one.
It was not. All right. So with that, real quick, just thank you again for being on the podcast. Please shout out your channel, your social medias, anything else you want to promote. We'll put links in the description for these for videos and stuff like that. But like, let people know what you have planned for the. I mean, High Isle obviously is there, but anything else you have planned, kind of let people know, and then we'll do the Q&A.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. If you want to come check me out or just say hi, you know, I am on Twitch, Twitter, and Coffee/Ko-Fi because I never know how to pronounce it. And you can find me under all three of those as Avron Doodles. So just come say hi. Yeah.
I correct myself sometimes. I go Ko-Fi or Coffee. It's Coffee because before they rebranded as they were growing. It's Coffee because it used to. They started as just a platform that didn't take fees from creators,
and now it's so much more.
They still do that, but they have a lot more. But it used to be Cup of Coffee. That's how I know that.
Yes. It's Coffee then, not Ko-Fi.
And that's why they have the coffee cup as a thing. But it used to be called Cup of Coffee when they were originally starting out, and it was just like alternative things. You don't have to use like Streamlabs or Stream Elements or whatever to get have people, you know, tip you and things like that.
Anyway, I'm there.